Welcome everyone, this is John with Living in Our 50s and hope you're having a fantastic day. I know I am. It's a little windy outside, so I wanted to film this inside, but I thought I'd give you a little bit different view than my office. My wife's at work today. She had to go in, so I thought I could do this out here. Today we're going to talk about, like I said, the Let Them Theory book, and I got 5 points I want to go over with you. Have you ever tried to change someone who wasn't ready to be changed, or didn't want to be changed, or didn't think they needed to be changed? You know, I can give you an example. When I was working with the homeless in DFW, I a lot of times found myself trying to convince them of what I knew was right for them, but they didn't know it yet, and it never worked. You know, for years I did that. And then finally, when I had some coworkers that had come on staff alongside me, that were former drug addicts, they kind of explained how things work. And that's when I learned the power of motivational interviewing. We'll talk a little bit about that in chapter 15, but 14, it just basically says people only change when they feel like it. People only change when they feel like it. It's what 14 talks about. And then 15 is unlock the power of your influence. And that's where the motivational interviewing will come in. Point 1, the hard truth about change. Okay. You cannot force someone to change. It's just not going to work. You can beat your head against that wall, or I can beat my head against that wall behind me before someone's going to decide that, hey, what you're telling me is what I need to do. If you've had kids, or you've been in a marriage, or you've been in relationships, or whatever. I mean, it applies to everybody. These things, you just cannot get somebody to change if they aren't ready to change, or if they don't want to change, or don't feel like they need to change. Over a period of time, they will mature. They may come to the same thinking that you're already at. Maybe you're already at that point, and maybe they need to still get to that point. Or maybe you're completely off altogether. Who knows? Maturity is going to be the one that will help get them to that point. Accountability. If they're asking for accountability, again, accountability is one that they're going to have to want that. Their faith. I know when I first started going to church and when I became a believer, I didn't become a believer the first day I went to church. I don't know, I was in my 30s when I became a believer. So I'd gone to church. I was a creaster, Christmas and Easter. Have you ever heard that? Yeah. So I was a creaster. That's the only time I used to go to church, growing up especially. But your faith, as you grow in the Lord, or as you grow closer to Christ, and as Christ dwells within you, things start becoming apparent through the Holy Spirit. Things will start to become apparent. As you grow in your faith after you've already received the Holy Spirit, things will start to change. I still change. I still have different thoughts and stuff. So it's what I used to believe years ago. A lot of it I don't believe anymore. I'm not the same person I used to be. We change over a period of time. Health decisions. I mean, there's a big one. Like this year, is when I really started trying to focus on my health. And so that's one that I think makes you start making different decisions. Pressure often creates resistance. So the more you pressure me to do something, the more resistance I'm going to give. If you say it's mandatory to do, I might. I mean, it's just, as I've matured, I probably will. But if you just, when I was younger, when people would say it was mandatory, I was like, oh, no, I ain't doing that. Change is emotional, not logical. So what does that mean? Emotional, not logical. Change is emotional, not logical. So you have to be on board emotionally in order to change. Okay? It's not a logical thing. Facts can help, but it has to get you at your core, okay? What you believe, what you are trying to see happen. I mean, it was an emotional change that I had to have when I used to dip. I dipped for, I don't know. And funny thing is that I just found out at the gym how much a can of snuff's going for now. It's like $10 a can or more. I mean, I quit when it was $5.25 a can. I quit, but I had to emotionally be on board in order for me to quit. Readiness cannot be rushed. Readiness cannot be rushed. Okay, the more you rush it, the more resistance they're going to have. Point 2 is, while we try to control others, there's fear. That's why. Love mixed with anxiety. If it's a spouse or somebody like that, it's got to be that person's own decision to make that change in their life. It may not be that they don't want it. It's just they don't want to feel the pressure from you. Ego. You don't always know what's best for that person. I mean, I hired a personal trainer, so that person could show me how to do things better, but she gives me the latitude when we are working out, like, okay, do you want to do this next? And if I'm not feeling it right then, I'm not going to do it. I mean, this happened the other day for the first time, really. I had already done cardio heavy the day before, I think, and I just wasn't going to do any more cardio. Discomfort with watching someone struggle. That's a big one. When somebody's in an addiction or something like that, it's hard to watch that. It really is. It's hard to watch that. And for family members, a lot of times you can say something to somebody and then somebody else comes along, says the exact same thing, but it was because of who it was, and maybe they didn't have the ego behind it why they listened. Control feels productive, but it rarely produces growth. Control feels productive, but rarely produces growth. Point 3, what the let them actually means. It doesn't mean you approve, okay? You're letting them make their own decisions, letting them do their own thing, but it does not mean that you definitely approve. It doesn't mean you abandon them. You don't let them and then leave. Christ wouldn't do that. It means you stop managing their life. That should be freedom right there. So a healthy shift is you go from controlling to modeling, okay? From convincing to living it. Let me give you an example on this. So used to I'd take, homeless people, try to help them start getting their ID. An ID was a big barrier for a lot of things. And an ID is hard to get when you don't have anything. So we'd start that process. A lot of times, you're in government buildings, you're having to, people who don't really want to be there necessarily. And the way I would treat them with respect and dignity. And then that person would ask me, she was mean to us. Why did you treat her so nice? I said, well, that's how Christ would do it. That's how we do things, the way we want to be treated. So you model that behavior for them, and then all of a sudden, they're like, okay. They start understanding it. So you want to go from controlling to modeling. You want to go from convincing to just living it. Go and present the gospel, and if necessary, use words. So in other words, just live it out. When I'm driving down the road, I'm probably not the best Christ representative, okay? I'm not the best ambassador to Christian living when I'm driving down the road. Point 4 is unlocking your influence. All right. So real influence comes from consistency, calm energy, boundaries, and example, which we've kind of talked about. But that's, real influence does come from those things. People are more influenced by what you do than what you say. Yeah. If anyone who's raised kids, your child is almost a carbon copy of you. okay? The things that come out of a babe's mouth are the things that come out of your mouth. So teachers, any of you teachers out there, you know that kids in the classroom, however they act in that classroom, you know that's what they're getting modeled at home, or what they're watching on TV, or, garbage in, garbage out, right? Don't ever say this to your child. Do as I say, not as I do, right? Point 5. Here's the last point, I think. Freedom of letting go. When you stop trying to force change, you gain peace, relationships improve, you grow, and ironically, people often lean in, okay? So when you stop trying to force change, what do? You'll gain peace, relationships improve, so your relationship with that person, that individual will improve, and you grow. And ironically, people often lean in. So this is the part where the motivational interviewing, I want to talk a little bit, and we need to do a whole video on motivational interviewing, because I was taught motivational interviewing not in a college climate, where I know probably a lot of y'all probably did get it, and it is a little bit different what I'm talking about, but it's basically when your listening skills have to outweigh your speaking skills. So you're listening for things that they're talking about, that they're tired of. I'm just tired of, I'll give you an example. I'm tired of, I have to sleep with one eye open when I'm out here, because I never know when somebody's going to come and try to rob me. Well, okay, from what I hear you saying is you're tired of being out here. No, that's not what I said. I'm tired of having to sleep. Okay, from what I'm hearing, though, is that you're tired of being out here. And the more I would say that and validate what they were saying, the more they would be, okay, I think I'm getting it. I think I understand that if I get off the streets, if I go somewhere where I have a door to close and I have an address, then perhaps I can get the help that I need. I can have the peace of mind. You can actually get good sleep. You can actually not be sleep deprived. Did you know sleep deprivation, a lot of times laziness looks like, sleep deprivation makes people look lazy, okay? They may not be a lazy person necessarily, but sleep deprivation causes them to look lazy. So getting in an address or a door you can lock or whatever, then your safety helps you to sleep more sound. What if the breakthrough isn't changing them, but changing how you show up? I'm going to repeat that. What if the breakthrough isn't changing them, but how you show up? I like to throw a little scripture in here if I could. You can always connect any of this stuff that I try to, when I'm reading Mel Robbins' book, The Let Them Theory, I'm always trying to figure out a more Christian type of way to look at the book. And, so God gives us free will, all right? It's a God-given thing, so you should not try to take that away from someone. Jesus, we've talked about this before, he doesn't force us into anything. Proverbs 4:23, it says, above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. Guarding your heart is the biggest thing that you've got to do. You've got to guard your heart. You can't be bitter because they don't want to do it. You can't be bitter because they want you to do it, okay? So this is for both aspects. You have to guard your heart. Galatians 6:5, each person carries their own load. Think about that. You can't carry the load for them. They have to carry that load. Matthew 5:16 says, let your light shine. Influence through example. Influence through example. Let your light shine. Influence through example. Those are some pretty good points, I think. What's a faith takeaway? We plant seeds. God changes hearts. You've heard that, hopefully. We plant the seeds. God changes the heart. Just remember, you can't change someone who doesn't want to change. You can listen to them, use what they're saying to try to help motivate them to change, but that's as far as you really can go, okay? Motivational interviewing still is not a way, is not going to convince them, okay? All it is that this is what you're saying, and you're pointing it back at them, okay? So I hope this does you some good. I hope this finds you well, and I hope you're not struggling. I've had some people reach out through the comments, and thank you so much for each of you who have commented. The more comments I get tells YouTube that, hey, you're interacting. This is getting to you. So interact with me on this. If you think there's I could get value from something you've read in the past, throw it at me. Let's see what we can do. But above all else, if there's something I can be praying for you, let me know. I invite each and every person to put their prayer requests down there in the comments, and let others even pray for you. Let it be a community, if you will, of people. This channel is living in our 50s. My wife and I are in our 50s, and once we cross over into the 60s, I guess I'll be living in our 50s, and she'll be living in her 60s. She is a couple of years older than me, so that'll be happening later on this year. But we'll definitely cross that bridge when we get to it. But this isn't just focused for people in their 50s and up. All right, this is focused for anyone who I'm just an old man giving my advice. I'm reading books and giving you what my take is on these books, or just through my life experiences. Okay, I've done enough work and done enough jobs and worked with enough people, and I've screwed up enough to where I just want to share with y'all what it is that I did wrong and how you can prevent from doing things the way I did, and hopefully have a better outcome. How's that? I don't know if I explain myself good, what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to build, the community here, but I just want to put something positive out there, that circle of influence that Adam LeWoo always talked about. I just want to put something positive out there. If you're struggling with something, I want to be there for you as best as I can through YouTube. So let me know how I can help you, and we'll see how things go, how the channel progresses. I mean, I don't know, are we at 55, or I don't know what we're at as far as how many vlogs. I know I missed 50 saying something about it, but this is it's been a great journey so far. How many ever days we're into this, but I've been able to vlog each and every day, and sometimes it's a little short snippet like yesterday's, but today's a little bit longer because I had more to say. And I hope this video finds you well. Hopefully you didn't click off if you've lasted this long. Would you please like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It really does help the channel to grow and get to more people. And I think that's the goal. So if the Lord wills, I'll see you in the next vlog. God bless.